Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So last week, Ping released a new iron. Really not been many irons released early 2022. It feels like more of a wood release here. But nice to see something fresh that we know will get a lot of use in our drawer.
Yeah, it's a category that's obviously very popular, like kind of the larger players distance category. I know Mike and I, we reviewed them, we kind of touched on that category last week in another video. But this is kind of blending of the I series, the i210, with the very popular i500.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame it is a week too late for you guys, because this would have been part of the test last week, wouldn't it? It would have been interesting to see how they kind of compete and how they sort of would stack up against the other good ones in the market. You're right, i500 was a popular iron. Performed well, but there were a few criticisms of the sound of it. I don't think it was ever the look, it was never the performance, but the sound was certainly a little clicky to some people's ear.
It's definitely one of those things for Ping where I think, when designers always have levers to pull, right? Yeah. With a golf ball, they've got spin or distance, and they try and fine tune that. With irons and woods, it's distance, spin, feel, all of these things are kind of packed in. Ping seems to always pull the lever really hard on technology, which they deliver on, right? Tons of ball speed, tons of MOI, a lot of things that really not a lot of other companies are offering. But this one, they've really focused on trying to improve the feel of that original i500.
Yeah, it's a trade they're not willing to make, isn't it? They're not really willing to sacrifice max out performance for some of those other more subtle preferences that people like, the sound, and I would say, the feel. But I think they have talked a fair bit with this iron, RB, about they've addressed some of that stuff. The polymer in there, the sort of weighting, the extreme weighting in the toe. We are likely to feel a slightly softer sounding iron, experience a little softer sound. Yeah,
and they have really taken a look at the internals of the iron. So they've added some internal ribbing, which comes from the i525.
Yep.
And then the other part of it is polymer. So unlike other irons, like say the 770 or the P790, it's not completely polymer filled. What they've done is they've kind of put stuff around the head to really help with the sound, but not affect the face flexing at all, which is a big thing they didn't want to sacrifice.
Yeah. The face flexing is a big part. This miraging steel face, giving it this sort of metal wood performance, it's literally designed like a little fairway wood. That's the kind of idea behind the iron. And as the loft progression goes, you do start to see some pretty impressive distances as you get into those middle and long irons. What will be interesting is, they have 5-degree gaps as standard from 8, 9 and wedge. That generally does offset a little bit of that kind of hot speed by going that extra degree of loft. So it'll be interesting to see, Mikey, what your gapping is like with it.
Yeah, I mean, hitting a few to start, it's a little bit different than the normal distance I would have, but excited to test it. I like the look of it. Very i529, but just a little bit bigger, which is nice. Yeah, a
little kind of big brother to that. Okay, let's hit a few wedge shots, Mikey boy.
Okay.
Let's see what it's got. Out of the gates, could it be a 1? Could be a 1. Oh!
Start throwing the beers.
Where are the beers? Swing there, Michael.
Nicely done. What would you say your normal stock distance is with your pitching wedge, Mike?
Like 135, easily, yeah.
Stripey.
Get away with it.
Yeah, it was just a wee bit clunky, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A bit high in the head. Toey?
Yeah.
Pin high toey.
All right, Michael. First impressions?
On the miss, a little toey or even a little high in the face, it still goes for sure, which is nice. I think that's the biggest thing with an iron like this. When you miss it a little bit, you still get away with it.
Yeah, we've got a little selection of toe strikes, low strikes, so we're kind of using the face. It's kind of when we would pick this type of iron, as if we do have some variance in strike. The one thing that stood out to me, though, as kind of time went on, was the sort of we go back to always talking about these. I feel like we're talking about standard deviation a lot these days, but very, very tight ball speed, spin rates. And those are some of the key sort of design characteristics with this new iron.
Yeah, super consistent.
Really, really good. What is it when you look down on it? Obviously, you've got the most loft that you would have in your iron set, and you see those additional grooves. Did you notice that there's the four extra grooves on there?
It looks like the the old Razor irons or an old Nike iron. Really compressed grooves. I love the look of that. I'd play set irons that have grooves like that all day long. It looks classic. It definitely looks a bit more compact, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely leaning into the kind of. It's not so much a friction, but it's more the consistency on the flyers, lack of flyers.
Yeah.
Trying to kind of make sure. We talked about, I think it was the video last week, wasn't it, with the kind of flyers, but trying to kind of keep the ball and the grooving together, trying to keep the moisture away from the face is very important. All right, jump into your 7, Michael. Okay, Mikey, so this is where, as an iron, it's going to become a little, not challenging, but it's going to probably start to look a little different in flight for you right now. 7's pretty strong, right? So the pitching wedge is 45, your pitching wedge is 45.
Yeah.
Those are fairly stock standard numbers for you. But this 7 comes down to 30.5, and it is starting to get stronger. I know that wasn't your best strike in that last one, but the spin is dropping a little bit. Yeah,
and for a player like myself, I struggle to hold greens at the best of times. So the minute we start to drop that spin, and obviously, launch is going to come down a little bit. That's a fear for me. But there are players that need it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ping talks a lot about power spec, retro spec. That option is in there for you. Should you need to weaken these, you can get that 7 on retro up to 32.5, which is, pretty standard.
Yeah.
That would be fine by today's standards anyway. Okay, let's see a few more. Better. So it's quite an interesting one, Mikey, if we look at those last 2, right? So the spin is actually identical for the most part, right? 200 RPMs of difference. You're relying on the ball speed to get the apex up to where you need it to be. The previous one was 77 feet. That one at 97 feet. Launch and speed.
Yeah, and we saw the angle of descent, which is something we always stress for being able to stop it on greens. Went from around, I think it was just around 41 to over 45, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for almost every degree, you're talking about 2 to 3 more yards of rollout, depending on your green. That's the difference between staying in the middle of the green and rolling, 15 feet, 20 feet past.
Yeah.
It's important to stress because there are a lot of people who still think spin is the main factor that makes the ball climb or not, and it really isn't.
Yeah.
Here we have a 20-foot difference, and the spin has effectively stayed the same. There's just 4 miles an hour ball speed difference and 2 degrees in launch angle difference. So I think where we do obviously want to preserve spin, that's kind of a bit your distance control. But it's not really about apex control.
Yeah.
That comes out more from speed and launch.
Okay.
You'll see a few more with this. Good, Mikey. Give that pin a little scare.
Yeah.
Flush.
That was very well struck.
How did that one feel?
Yeah, strike was good. I liked it. I mean, from the quad, I can see it's a bit lower, but got away with it, which was nice.
Sounded really nice. It really did. So looking at the consistency on your apex, 88 feet with your pitching wedge, 89 feet with your 7-iron there. That's ticking some boxes. I mean, we thought the spin was tight with the pitching wedge. It got tighter with the 7-iron. These are some of the things I think people maybe don't quite understand are key sort of performance characteristics when it comes to building a very functional set of irons. Making sure we don't have different flight patterns. They're designed to blend well throughout the set. This is pretty good stuff.
This is exactly when people talk about, and like good players, PGA Tour players, LPGA Tour players, it's all about hitting flight window, hitting flight window, hitting flight window. And when they have a club that they like and they're going into something else, they are very much looking for a very particular apex number. And this is an example where across the set, we're seeing something almost exactly the same, which I think for any golfer to have that flight stay at that same peak height. Now it's going to vary depending on someone's club head speed. If like, slower swing speed might be a little lower, higher swing speed might be a little higher. But if you can maintain that, that allows for everything from, as you said earlier, distance control to being able to stop the golf ball. Because as soon as you start to see it dip into those longer golf clubs, whether it be because of club head speed or being able to maintain the ball speed, that's when you're going to have issues holding greens, which is exactly something we talked about before.
I've always kind of given out that little metric of, for the average golfer, 6-iron speed. The speed you swing at is about what your apex should be. You're right there.
Yeah.
Right, 88, 89, that's about where you'd be swinging 6-iron today. Your 7-iron, you're swinging at 84. So 6-iron would probably be 87, maybe 88. So you'd literally be right there.
Yeah,
so I'd be looking at this going, okay, spin is a bit low, but we've got good ball speed, we've got great launch, and we're still getting the stopping power because of that.
Love it.
Right, so let's have a look at the 4-iron, Mikey. You got a lot out of that.
Yeah. Yep.
A little scrapey on the strike, but
It's going a long way.
what's your 4-iron number?
Yeah, I would say 4-iron is a 200 number for me. 195, 200.
Because I'm thinking back to the 1-iron video. And I'm thinking, like, these carry distances might be, I think they were a little bit more than you were getting out of either the UDI, or we would expect it probably to beat the blade, but, you know, even the UDI, this has still got a little bit more in the tank. Flight has came down a little bit, so, you know, we would have to contend with the fact that it is a much flatter ball flight.
Yep.
So whether it would still be, you know, functional from that perspective. I think there's a better strike in there, though.
Definitely, yeah.
Right, let's see that. Close.
To see the ball speed on that is pretty impressive. It's kind of one of those things. It's easy to see why someone like Cameron Champ would have one of these in the long iron just to like rip off the tee, because like you were getting some pretty like backspin was pretty low again. Height around 75 on that last one there, like maybe not the best for holding greens, but if you're just looking for a tee club that is not a hybrid, you can understand why some players would put these in the bag.
Yeah. And Cam Champ's carrying it about 90 yards further than me.
Yeah, I mean, I bet he would be. I mean, 4-iron with this thing, or 3-iron. I think probably 3-iron he'd put in the bag, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would be his, you know, 260 club, something about that.
Yeah. For people that have a trouble, like, you know, might be missing behind the ball a little bit, there is a lot of forgiveness built into this golf club that's sitting there on the bottom of it. And I think it's by design, because Ping very forwardly says, like, you can bend them 2 degrees weak, you can bend them 2 degrees stronger, you can power spec or retro spec. To have that camber built into the sole, which is front to back radius, to be able to have that into the iron to offer some forgiveness, we're noticing it here. Right? We're not seeing, you know, it's not great results off every shot, but we're seeing results that are still very playable, which for a lot of golfers in this category looking at an iron is a very important factor.
Yeah, that's definitely the encouraging part, because looking at Mike's delivery, low point is kind of right at the ball right now.
Yeah.
Rather than being a little ahead of it, so you are flirting with the slight heavy strike. So while that is your delivery, this is really helping, you know, and there's a decision to be made. Would you play an iron, you know, like this, you know, that it's coming in this flat?
Yeah.
You know, you may decide to go on another route actually right now.
Yeah.
But I would love to see you flush one. That's nice, Mikey.
The height on that thing.
Really nice.
A 205, 206 carry on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one, isn't it, right there? You know, 13 launch, it's still quite low. It looks like they're 3-wood numbers. Yeah. 13 launch, 31, you know, 73. So, you know, I wouldn't be rushing to convince you to try and play this for your particular set. I think there's lots of people who could benefit from it. You're probably one of them. You know, this and a little power spec for RB, you know, coming out nice and flat could be fantastic.
Anything that would flatten my ball flight would be fantastic.
Absolutely. But let's throw the comparison up. So we will see the difference We talked about how good the wedge and 7-iron trajectories were, just kind of overlapping. MSC this dropped down a little bit, understandable, but still pretty good performance, Mikey.
Yeah,
It really is.
Excited to see, you know, I will say for me, I just, you know, I maybe struggle a little bit with the long iron.
Yeah.
Maybe not as easy to hit as my 4-iron is, you know, weight of shaft and stuff like that, but you know, there's some that you missed out there, and you're like, you look up and you see it carry, you're
Still
like, okay, well,
200
I
yards.
can cover the water or cover a bunker if I hit it scrappy kind of thing, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. What did we think to the sound? Did we think that's an improved sound? Did it, you know, can you think back to i500?
Oh, like big improvement over i500. I know, like i500. This is in reality like very wood technology packed into an iron, and i500 sounded not what you expected an iron to sound like. It was more
like
hybridish, little like kind of. This really sounded a lot more like an iron. It wasn't, you know, as soft as some of their other models, but it's not really designed to be, right? Like it's designed to. And the other thing too, like when it comes to audio feedback for a lot of golfers, that real like higher pitch sound. Now this isn't like extremely high pitch, but something that has a lot more audible feedback can really help improvement, right? Where, you know, you catch one, still feels good. It literally is confidence inspiring, which I think is really important when someone is going through that, to be like, no, get that feedback and understand, okay, I missed it, but I hit it okay, right? I think that's important because, you know, golf's hard enough as it is. And if you can have a golf club that in reality, you know, doesn't discourage you when you hit a bad shot, now that sounds like a weird thing to say, but it can be really helpful to those players.
Yeah, I think the connoisseur is going to probably lean away from this sound. You know, you guys enjoy your forged irons, you know, as much as anyone. But you're right, RB. Like the average golfer wants to kind of hear the reward of the good strike, and you know, you can really hear, especially some of those 7-irons that you hit really flush.
Yeah,
they sounded really well hit.
Love it. No, I think I know a couple, you know, friends of mine that play i500, and you know, I feel like if you were to hit a golf ball with a frying pan, that's what it sounded very high pitched, especially if you caught it high in the face.
Yeah.
It kind of echoed on the golf course. This sounds like an iron. So excited and happy that they've made that change.
For sure. Oh, guys, one thing I would say is, I mean, looking at Mikey's numbers right here, we have to be very mindful, again, the role the golf ball plays in this whole thing, because when we are dealing with these stronger lofted irons and irons that are designed to be very, very quick, obviously lots of face flex, go to launch quite high, we want to retain, you know, a little bit more spin. We want that spin to be very, very consistent. So think about what golf ball you play if you're going to be tested for these, or if you're going to just go buy a set, which we never advise you to do anyway. But you know, think about the golf ball. Go for something that does spin a little bit on the higher side. Then you'll get the best out of these irons.
Yeah, I think it plays an impact on sound and especially spin when we talk about those short irons. We tested it earlier. We tested the AVX, lower spinning ball.
Yeah.
You know, if you're really fast and you have these, maybe that's going to work. But in reality, I know we tested in the past something like the Wilson, for example, or I believe the Mizuno ball was another one that was a little bit higher on the spin category, right? Those kind of things for like certain players is really going to help, because now rather than going high spin, or low spin, you're mixing low spin with something that's a little higher, and in the middle, it works really well.
Definitely. Okay, i525, an improvement on the i500? Yes, no doubt about that. Really nice. Excited to see how they stack up. I think we're probably due another test, actually, throw them in with some of the heavy hitters. 225 won out on the test last week with you guys on the hollow body
for distance, but I know Mike preferred. We saw the best numbers for performance was with the Apex Pro.
Apex Pro, lovely iron. Okay, let's maybe pick a couple to throw up against i525. I think people want to see it in context. How does it perform around others in its category? And we'll do another retest.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments, because we want to hear what you want to have this tested against.
Very good point. Yeah, we'd love to know what you guys would like. We run a little poll on the Instagram channel as well, somewhere where you can definitely let us know what you think. That's a very good idea. We always know we get the comments from you guys. Why didn't you add in this one? Why didn't you add in that one? You know, we could be here all day, you know, adding, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 different irons in there, but we're going to try and be very selective and try and maybe pick 2 others around this category. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. We will see you again soon.